Beautiful Caribbean islands, crystal clear water, and a name that supposedly comes from a cactus? That's the story you'll find in every travel guide. But the historical record tells a very different story. According to Wikipedia and every tourism website, the Turks Islands are named after the Turks' cap cactus, Melocactus intortus, whose red top supposedly resembles a Turkish fez. Here's the problem: this cactus explanation only appears in modern sources. But if we look at 16th and 17th century maps and documents, we find something completely different. Early map makers called them the Turks Islands for a very specific reason, and it had nothing to do with plants. In 1501, Ottoman Turkish Admiral Kemal Reis ventured into the Canary Islands. This wasn't a random voyage. It was the beginning of Ottoman naval operations in the Atlantic. In 1585, another Ottoman admiral, Murat Reis the Elder, didn't just visit the Canary Islands. He captured Lanzarote, an entire island. In 1586, he led the first major Barbary corsair expedition into the Atlantic Ocean. The Canary Islands are 1,500 miles from the Caribbean. Ottoman corsairs were operating in the exact approach waters to what would become known as the Turks Islands. The most famous Ottoman naval commanders were the Barbarossa brothers, Oruç and Hayreddin. They established Ottoman naval supremacy across the Mediterranean and into the Atlantic. These weren't small-scale pirates. Hayreddin Barbarossa became Grand Admiral of the entire Ottoman fleet. He commanded hundreds of ships and defeated European naval coalitions. The historical record is clear. Ottoman corsairs operated as far north as Iceland, raided the coast of Ireland, and established bases on the Atlantic coast. The idea they avoided the Caribbean approaches defies logic. Now here's what they really don't want you to understand. In 1492, Spain completed the Reconquista, expelling Muslims and Jews from Iberia after 800 years. Muslims who remained, called Moriscos, faced forced conversion, persecution, and enslavement. Hundreds of thousands were expelled or killed. And who came to their aid? The Ottoman Empire. The Barbarossa brothers explicitly stated their operations were in response to Spanish attacks on fellow Muslims. At the same time, Spain and Portugal were establishing the Atlantic slave trade. The Canary Islands? Staging grounds for Spanish colonial operations. Resupply points for slave ships. So when Ottoman corsairs raided the Canary Islands and operated in Atlantic waters, they weren't random pirates. They were conducting counter-operations against the Spanish colonial apparatus and the emerging slave trade. Western sources call them Barbary pirates terrorizing innocent Europeans. But the documented context shows Ottoman naval forces fighting Spanish persecution of Muslims and disrupting slave trade routes. So why the cactus story? Why replace documented Ottoman naval operations with botanical coincidence? If Ottoman admirals operated in these waters, if they named islands, if they established presence in the Atlantic approaches, then the whole narrative of European colonial dominance becomes more complicated. This isn't speculation. The historical record explicitly documents that Turk was synonymous with pirate throughout 16th century Europe, specifically because Ottoman corsairs dominated Mediterranean and Atlantic waters. Early map makers combined Turks with the local indigenous term for chain of islands, creating Turks and Caicos as a warning to avoid the pirate islands. Except Turk didn't mean generic pirate. It specifically meant Ottoman corsair. So centuries later, when the Ottoman Empire has fallen and this history becomes inconvenient, scholars invent the cactus explanation. Problem solved. No awkward questions about Ottoman Atlantic operations. This pattern repeats throughout history. Anywhere you find Turkic or Ottoman historical presence that challenges the standard narrative, you'll find convenient alternative explanations. So next time someone tells you these islands are named after a plant, you can tell them about the Ottoman admirals who operated in these exact waters in 1501, 1585, and throughout the 16th and 17th centuries. The question isn't whether they were there. The question is why we're taught to believe in botanical coincidences instead of documented history.
Allah